Just got back yesterday from a seminar in San Diego, and whoa, it's just so cool. Spent time individually and in groups with a lot of people, and it was wonderful. It's wonderful to watch people feeling loved. It's wonderful to feel loving toward them. Delightful to watch them loving each other. It was a spectacular seminar. The people that put it on did a great job. And people asked lots of questions, on and on and on. But like I talk about each week, it's about the feeling. And people were really feeling. I heard 20 times, if I heard once, people say, I've never felt this peaceful or this loved or this happy ever. And these are people who are 30, 40, 50. One guy was 84 years old. One guy was so old he wouldn't tell me how old he was. But at least 84. It's never too late. So people were healed, and people got hope that never had any before, and people felt loved for the first time. It's pretty fun stuff. So my point is, you get a chance to do something in person with people, a real love group, a seminar, a weekend, do it. Love doing these video chats, and they're very useful. You get a feel of love, but in person it's better. Here's a member who says, I am in such gratitude. I recently heard my husband Mike say the absolutely most loving things to me. And he's done some of the most loving things that have ever happened to me. What I've always wanted, not only from my husband, but from anybody. What a thing to say, huh? Who can say that? It's a fulfillment of a life's dream. Huge. And this is a woman who had not experienced a lot of love, certainly not from her husband, and it didn't look like it was coming around the corner either. But she decided to change some things. Let's see if she talks about those. Let me see. She says, it took me 3 years to trust you, trust real love, trust Mike, her husband, enough to just let him learn his way. But it's all been worth it. We're connected with love now, and it's amazing. It really is amazing. The end result is miraculous. But some of the in-between steps between life is horrible and miracles can be unfamiliar. Well, they'd kind of have to be, wouldn't they? Any step we take outside of familiar would be unfamiliar and often even difficult. And so what do we tend to do? Tend to quit. As soon as we quit, no miracle. We just eat dirt all of our lives, the same dirt over and over. And then we don't get to write emails like this that say, I've just had the most loving experiences and heard the most loving things from my husband that I ever thought possible ever. It's really worth it. And I say it emphatically because those first few steps are tough. Just like in addiction, with anything. Addiction to drugs, alcohol, shopping, sex, whatever. Anytime we withdraw from an addiction, not any old familiar pattern of behavior, we just feel lost because we're giving up an entire world. And between the time that we give up everything that we thought we knew, everything certainly that we were familiar with, until we get to something that's better, there are some steps in between where we feel like we got nothing at all. We don't have the addiction, and it's temporary relief. We don't have unconditional love. We feel like we're just sort of cut loose and floating in space. So I understand why people quit. I mean, I've had the temptation to quit many times. But then we don't get the end result, the miracles like this woman's talking about. She says, on one of the video chats, you mentioned an email from a woman who said, my husband doesn't want to be around me, doesn't want to touch me. And you replied, of course, of course not, because you're controlling, attacking, and criticizing him all the time. It made me think of me, and I was sad for a moment, recognizing I still do it, yet less and less than last year and less than the year before. And you said that if I truly wanted to stop hitting him, which means emotionally hitting him by criticizing, controlling, attacking, and so on, if I really wanted to, I would. So maybe I'm a slow learner or slow to trust or whatever, not sure why it's taken so long. Who cares? But there is an answer. Pain. You've been in pain all this time, and controlling has an immediate reward. When we're in pain and we feel helpless and hopeless and lost and out of control, we can at least reach out and grab somebody by the neck, and for a second we have the illusion of power. And even though it's an illusion, even though it's temporary, even though it's nothing, it feels better than nothing. If we're starving to death, we would gorge ourselves on pretty much anything. Cotton candy, chocolate, whatever. None of those things would sustain life. None of them. If you ate just nothing but cotton candy, well, you'd still starve to death. No vitamins, no essential amino acids, so on. But in the short run, the taste of it and the full stomach would seem a lot better than nothing. So the solution is trust, and you did that. Trust when you're in pain. And trust is tough, because when you're out of control, just trusting that something you haven't really thoroughly tested yet, that it will be okay, that's just scary stuff. You continue writing. I have a lot more to learn about loving, but I'm enjoying the journey. And the rewards are beyond measure. Thank you so much for showing us how to love and for loving us. You always knew that somewhere inside us, she's talking about her and her husband, there were loving people, even when we didn't. No words could truly express my gratitude. So let me be clear. What she's writing is not about me. I don't take it as about me. This is what love does, not what I do. If I can somehow convey the love, well, then I'm thrilled. But taking credit for love is like kind of ridiculous, like holding up a mirror and taking credit for sunshine. And this is what we all want to do as wise men and women. We want to love people. We want to teach them. We want to help them find love to share with others. And we have to persist. We have to be consistent, like gravity. With this woman, it took her 3 years. And let me tell you, she and I had more than one conversation. It took, I don't even know how many, 100? Don't know. I don't keep track. But see, I don't get excited because I really have faith that eventually, and it might not even be in my lifetime, I'm that unattached to the results, that eventually, if I persist loving somebody and I persist teaching them, I drop dead, somebody else picks up the baton and persists loving and teaching. I really think that they're going to make it. So I don't get excited when people don't get it in the short term. Like she said, you saw loving people in us when we didn't. Well, I've been doing it a long time, and I've seen the loving people come out when in the short term you'd swear it was impossible, no chance for this person. No, just keep going. As Donna sometimes says, it just keeps getting better and better. And she's right. That was the woman writing. She said, Donna says it keeps getting better and better, and she's right. Well, the lesson there, of course, is that Donna is always right, which is the primary principle that guides my life. But she's right about this. As long as you keep at it, it gets better and better. If you don't keep at it, learning to love, it doesn't usually stand still. It usually gets worse and worse. Every week, apparently last week I forgot, so shoot me. I tell you a little bit about Sylvie, who's one of my grandkids. Why do I tell you about Sylvie and not the other grandkids? Sylvie's mother tells me about Sylvie and gives me stuff to put on the video chats, and I don't think the other kids have ever seen a video chat. So they just live it. If I asked them to, they might not, but Sylvie gives me plenty of material. So Sylvie started saying a prayer before the meal with her family. Her mother, dad, her brother, Sylvie's 3, Bruce is 2, and the baby's whatever, nothing. Less than 1 is nothing. And Bruce, 2, kept chanting that he wanted to say the prayer. Me, I want, you know how 2-year-olds do, and they keep at it. So Sylvie hears Bruce, she stops praying and says, okay, Bruce, we can start over and say it together. I'm not sure that solution would have even occurred to me. And she's 3. No conflict. I'm still going to say the prayer if you'd like to say it with me, or anything else, like play ball or whatever. We can work this out. But she wasn't angry, and she wasn't frustrated, and she wasn't a doormat. And give in. No, she came up with a loving solution. One day Sylvie says to my daughter, is the reason that we have families so that we don't feel alone when we don't know how to make dinner? It's priceless. Why is it that we have people that love us? Because when we don't know what we're doing, whether it's how to make dinner or how to be nice or how to do anything else, we have people that love us, which is what a family really is, to hold our hand and show us so we don't feel alone. That is so cool that a little kid, 3 years old, summarizes the 5 truths just like that. Poof, with one question, or really one statement. Faster than I do it. I make it 5 truths. She just blends them all together. Here's a member who says, my wife often doesn't get enough sleep. And when she doesn't, there is hell to pay. The next day, she is grouchy and impossible. Plus, she has all kinds of physical complaints. And then she's late for work. The people at work are starting to complain that she's late, but she's still late and sometimes doesn't go to work at all. It is not pretty. So my question is, what can I do? You can't control her. Yelling at her, nagging at her, you can't make her do this. Don't try. But you can ask her how much she's willing for you to participate in the regulation of her sleep. It is your business. We've talked about in 1 or 2 of the books, I don't remember, that before you offer any potential guidance or corrective advice to your partner, you first have to ask yourself, is it any of your business? Does it really matter? What's the third one? Half the audience knows what the third one is. Can you say it in a loving way? And can your partner hear it? Well, is it any of your business? Sure. Because the 2 of you, assuming that you share finances, and if you're married, even if you don't exactly share them, if one person suddenly gets fired, it affects your family. So it is your business. It does matter. So you can ask her how much she's willing for you to do something, because you do need to do something. She can't keep being late. But you can actually offer help without controlling her. So let's talk about how that could happen. You could sit down with her, preferably not while she's late. People listen badly when they're in the middle of a crisis. And you say, sweetie, when you don't get enough sleep, it is a fact that the consequences are unfortunate. They're unproductive. They're ugly. You're grouchy, you're late for work, and you don't feel good. So, first, and this is the one that matters, and you got to mean it. If you don't, it's just going to look like a manipulation. So, first, I care about you. This is all affecting you. You are not happy when you're sleep deprived. Second, it does affect me. You snap at me. If you lose your job, that affects both of us. So, caring about you, and admittedly with some self-interest, I'm asking you if I could be involved in helping you with this. So notice, you're asking if you could, not if she wants you to. You get to ask because it affects you. Now, what if she says, no, you can't help me? Let it go for now. Don't push it. Don't be controlling. But you also say this, all right, fine, I won't push this now. If this continues, though, I will bring it up again because we're partners. If you consistently make decisions that affect both of us, I really can't just let it go. Because if I don't speak up for our well-being, who will? So this is going to get talked about. But let's assume that she says, okay, sure, let's talk about it. Then you discuss some options. Now, I'm not controlling you either. I'm not telling you what to say. But I'm just giving you some possibilities that you might have not have thought about. First one would be ridiculous as it sounds for somebody who's probably not 6. You have to set a bedtime. Adults like staying up late too. Many adults do. I stay up too late regularly. Well, at least too late in the opinion of others. Frankly, I stay up exactly as long as I want to. So it doesn't seem too late to me. But I don't usually have to get up and show up at work at 6:30 in the morning. If I did, I would not keep my present hours. I was just at a seminar in San Diego, and I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning in order to get to the airport on time. So I don't stay up late usually on those days. First, you set a bedtime. I don't know. I'm going to make it up, 10 o'clock. Then you talk about how can you help her get to bed by then. Now, these are mutually agreed upon. You're not telling her this. You're not telling her it's got to be 10. No, you discuss what would be a reasonable time for us to be in bed so that you can get up in time to go to work. Let's talk about that. And then you agree that, for example, here's some of the ways you could help. That there are no activities that you two are going to do after a certain hour. No sex, no playing games, no television watching, nothing after a certain time. And usually that's like, at least the people who do work with lack of sleep in people, sleep deprivation, they suggest that you do pretty much nothing that gets your brain fired up for like 20 minutes before you go to bed. And then you could remind her, if she's not all ready for bed, past a certain time. That would be like, half an hour or 40 minutes before the agreed upon bedtime. Whatever, you guys can work this out. The point of it is almost less the bedtime than it is you two practicing working this out together. See, people have a tendency to say, well, it's my bedtime, I can do what I want. Not really, no. Because you're in a partnership now. You haven't known what a partnership is before. It'd be like two people. Imagine you have a business partner, the two of you are 50-50 partners in a business, and you decide to go out and blow 10% of the company's assets on whatever. Just realized I'm not wearing the microphone. You been hearing me anyway?
It's
Really? So I don't need this?
No, it's better.
Yeah, well. So now I'm wearing the microphone. In a business partnership, you don't get to say what you're going to do unilaterally. Well, this is even more than a business partnership. It's more important than a business partnership, and it involves more things. I don't get to say I'm going to go out and spend all of our savings on a new car without talking to Donna. No, we're going to talk about it and come to something reasonable, not a compromise. No, we're going to come to complete agreement. And until we come to complete agreement, we're not going to spend a bunch of money. So that's the real point of you talking to her about this, about the bedtime, is that the two of you practice being partners. Then if she proposes doing something during the hours that you've agreed will be sleeping hours, then you don't control her, but but you always get to say what you will do. We really miss this option. When people aren't doing what we want, we think we have to control them. No, just control you. So if your partner says, well, I'm not ready to go to bed yet, well, then go to bed yourself. At the very least, be an example. You could say, I'd love to do that with you. I'd love to have sex with you. I'd love to be with you. I'd love to watch a movie with you. But we agreed that we'd be in bed by blank. And it's going to interfere with how you feel in the morning. So we can do this tomorrow at whatever o'clock. It's just really important to learn to do things as a couple. I don't know why I have two of these, but I can't resist. Bruce, the 2-year-old, was getting food all over his clothes and making a mess. And Sylvie said, you know, that's going to make a lot of work for Mom. She's already teaching loving consideration to her 2-year-old brother. Jeanette takes something from Bruce that might be harmful, you know, like cleaning fluids. I don't know what it was. And Sylvie comes to Bruce's defense and wants Jeanette to explain to Bruce why she took that from him. If Sylvie's talking to Jeanette and Jeanette gets frustrated, then Sylvie says, so would you like me to talk to Dad? Or would you like me to talk to Grandpa? She's such a calm child. And she's calm because she's been loved. No matter what happens, no matter what she's required to do, no matter what's taken from her, no matter what's going on, she knows she's loved. So it's like the 5 truths. I'm loved. I have everything that I'll ever need and nothing to fear. So then why do I have to get excited about any particular thing? And she gets that at 3, which is pretty impressive. Here's a member who says, my story reads like this. I'm very needy. I'm a victim and a martyr. I attack myself constantly, and I'm so very alone. I am tired of my story. And that kind of life really does get tiresome, doesn't it? It's exhausting. I said that to somebody on the weekend in San Diego. They described their life, and I said, whoa, you're making me tired hearing it. Aren't you tired? And she broke into tears and said, I really am tired. Well, then let's talk about how we can quit it. But without additional choices and without feeling loved, people can't choose differently. If we see only one choice, we only have one. So we feel stuck, trapped, and tired. In fact, you can kind of write it down in your head that if you're feeling tired, then you're doing something that's not working. And you need to, instead of working harder, you need to just stop and rethink it. See it from a different perspective. See what you're forgetting. One lady told me she couldn't do one more thing in her life. I was holding her at the time in San Diego. There's one more thing I could do in my day. I said, well, you're sitting in my lap right now. And I helped her. She said, well, you love me. Mm-hmm. God loves me. Yeah. I have everything I'll ever need and nothing to be afraid of. I said, you feel tired right now? She said, no. She hadn't gone to sleep. I'd just given her several things to say. So if you like, more to do. But it's about a different perspective. It's fighting that makes us tired. It's expectations that make us tired. It's anger, it's resentment, it's all that stuff. Feeling loved and being loving are much less tiring, way more peaceful. Now, can you get exhausted loving? Yeah, but it's a whole lot better than rushing around like a chicken with its head cut off. You continue. I'm so ready to get out, but I'm really struggling with the way to let go and the direction to start or jump. I'm having trouble asking people to love me. I happen to know you. That's a big problem because people can't read your mind. You really have to tell them what you need, and yet you have trouble asking people to love you. Well, how are they going to know what you need? If you just sit around waiting for love, That's almost guaranteed death. I reach out and talk to people and love them probably more times in a day than most of you listening. Occasionally, I reach out to love somebody that I just see, or I contact people whose names just flash into my mind. But on the whole, I respond to requests. Like at the seminar I just came from. I was deluged with requests and managed to accommodate very nearly all of them. I slept almost none while I was there for almost 4 days. But if somebody asks, I can respond. If somebody doesn't ask and they hide in the back of the room, occasionally I will notice them and see them, but the odds are pretty teeny. That's asking an awful lot of the people around you to read your mind and know what you want, to know whether you want to be left alone or you want to be approached. Asking is not something I want to do, she continues. I don't know what I would ask for or what to say or how to tell stories that I've stuffed down so deep. It's a very thick wall protecting my heart. I see beautiful things inside of it, but I don't let them out. I'm so used to protecting myself from being weak and real that I don't reach out. I assume those things scare me because I never end up going there. You were not born afraid, honey, but you had so many experiences with being told that you were not worth loving that eventually you just gave up trying to find love. You gave up being vulnerable. Too much pain. Where you are afraid to ask for love and being miserable and alone is not your fault. But now it's all your responsibility to change it. It may seem contradictory, not your fault, but all your responsibility. They're not contradictory. The pain in your life is the fault of the people who should have loved you. But they're not going to correct it. Almost by definition, if they didn't love you and they got you to this place, they're not able to love. So what do? You get love from a different set of people. Might even seem unfair. Well, who cares? You want to focus on fair, or you want to be happy? You want a life full of love, or you want a life full of justice? Justice will never keep you warm at night. She continues, I'd never known real love until I got involved in this work. Real love. My parents were very caught up in their drama, and I didn't measure up when I didn't fit my mom's perfect mold. My family has shut me out for similar reasons and because I acted like my mom. I define myself by their judgments and therefore feel very unworthy. Brilliant insights. Notice, those of you who are listening, she wasn't beaten. She was just simply the object of disappointment and avoidance. And that was enough to crush her. That's enough. You don't need some obvious violence or violation. She continues, I've been left by the men in my life after they first ignore me. I accept very little from the man in the relationship that I'm in, the man in the relationship I'm in today, and have just learned to live with it. The safety is suffocating, but I'm trying so hard to just survive. I work in a job that used to challenge me as I sought praise and power, and today, that doesn't work either. Your entire world is defined by your need to simply minimize the unbearable pain in your life. It's how you survive. You've defined happy as less pain. You've defined pretty good as not dying. So you survive, but you don't truly live. You continue. Deep inside, I see who I want to be as if I were looking at a catalog. I see the pretty thin girl who smiles, laughs, and plays. She doesn't take herself so seriously and doesn't fear so many things. She tries new things and enjoys the challenge instead of seeing the potential failure, judgment, and so on. The challenge of that. She doesn't worry about what everybody thinks and only cares for others. She's happy. And in that, she finds the love she really wants. Well, a lot of that is who you really are. Energetic, creative, bright. What you see now when you look in the mirror, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually, is just a collection of fears and responses to fears, all because of what you were taught in the past. Notice your reference to seeing the thin girl. even while describing your ideal self, you still have a remnant of what others told you that you should be, the little thin girl. How do you have any idea that the little thin girl is who you really ought to be? You continue. In a conversation yesterday with a wise woman, I expressed to her that I was really ready to get moving on my growth. She told me that I may have to get rid of things in my life before I can see the truths that I'm hiding so deep. Dumping my job, dumping my boyfriend of 14 years. It brings tears and fear of letting go. It brings up guilt of breaking up a relationship without trying it a new way. It reminds me of the years after my business, relationship, and family support all failed. You might have to do all that. Dump your boyfriend, quit your job, everything, and start over. I don't know. I don't. Possibly not all at the same time. It's a virtual certainty that you'd have to leave your boyfriend. I mean, this is really easy. 14 years, in your own words, in the same relationship, same guy, and you're just barely surviving. That's not a relationship. It sounds more like you're in prison. It sounds like a prison term. I've been 14 years behind bars. That's not working. And it's working so badly that in order for you to change your life, it would just be too hard to do it with him. If you're meant to be with him, he's your soulmate forever, well, then you'll get back together later. But leave him. Really. Just do it. Don't think about it. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Get out. Positive change, real change, doesn't happen until we make different choices. Really different choices, not little itty-bitty, little tiny, fractionally different ones. Real change doesn't come to us while we wait. Now, you might not have to leave your job, and sometimes that's not the best first choice. Why? Because look at the balance. The stress of not having an income might be more than the stress of the job. Now, I don't know the details enough to say much about that, but you're right. Something has to change dramatically, like hugely, and only that will be a huge shift for you. Your whole life needs to change. Nothing's working. Remodeling's not enough. You have to tear down the building, pour a new foundation, and rebuild. You continue. How do I make myself get and feel enough love to get through all this? Is it all at once or an onion's layers? Where to start? It's all of that. Initially, almost invariably, people have to take a big leap. They do. The inertia of our past just reaches out like quicksand and just sucks us backward. And taking itty-bitty little steps usually aren't enough even to overcome the inertia and keep us in the same place. We keep going backward. So in the beginning, we usually do have to take a big leap. You'll need an infusion of love that is intense and consistent. You need to learn how to trust like a child. That at your stage of pain, 14 years in the same relationship, that's a lot of pain, will probably require a coach at the very least. Your pain just oozes onto the page that I'm reading. So this would require a leap. And then after the leap, there will be plenty of onion peeling, honey, for the rest of your life. I'm still peeling an onion and finding one layer after another and sometimes little pockets of rotten onion, and you just keep going. You're always discovering more that you need to work on or maintain. But take the leap, sweetie. It's not going to happen while you just sit still. I talked to a couple in San Diego, and these two have been in and out of their relationship 30 times in the last 7 years. All the way in, all the way out, all the way in, all the way out. Spend money on therapy, fight, kick, throw things at each other, then fall back into each other's arms. I mean, it's a crazy up and down relationship. 7 years of hell. Awful. No peace, no calm, no working together as partners, no real sharing of assets, no mutually supporting each other emotionally. And I said, well, this just sounds awful. What are you willing to do to have a genuinely happy relationship like I've been describing, or a genuinely happy relationship like some of the people here in the room? we'd do anything. We would do anything to have a relationship like this. Really? Okay, well, you'd have to start off by doing this. And I named something. Well, now, see, we couldn't do that. We wouldn't be able to get to that for like a year or so. Okay, you'd have to do this. Number 2. Well, see, we couldn't afford that. So here are the two of you. You're not 16 years old anymore. These are people in the middle of their lives. And they're busy earning money, accumulating things. They have all manner of toys and expensive nothings. And they're going to die with no stable relationship, no happiness, no true peace in their lives, but they'll have toys. Every single thing I named, they weren't willing to do. All of them. So I'm willing to do anything except anything. It doesn't work like that. I got to the place in my life where I said, I'm willing to give up anything to be happy. And I'm willing to do anything to be happy. Well, turns out I was. I was willing to. Some things took longer. Some things I had to give up more than once. Certainly stumbled along the way and fell down and bloodied my knees. But anything less than full commitment, with a 50% commitment to finding unconditional love, you get nothing. Really. 50% trust, nothing. Like leaping out of an airplane with a parachute halfway. What do you get for that? I don't know what halfway would look like, in fact. Sticking your arm out the door, you jump or you don't. These people were absolutely unwilling to jump. And then asked me, so here's what we're willing to do, which came down to nothing. So what do you suggest? And I said, I don't have any suggestions. I think you should go back to living the miserable, fighting, kicking, back and forth, in and out, miserable, up and down relationship that you've been living until you're absolutely, completely miserable and willing to give it up. They thought I was joking or making fun of them. Nope, not at all. Sometimes it takes just way more pain than we're in before we're willing to wake up. And I'm good with that. In the case of my life, it took an enormous amount of pain before I was willing to wake up. Certainly not going to make fun of the pain it takes in other people's lives. Here's somebody who asks, if a baby loses its parents, and a family adopts the baby, when is the best time to tell the child that the baby was adopted and his real parents are dead? And how should we say that? It starts off as a theoretical question. Theoretically speaking, if somebody were to adopt a baby, and then the last thing is, so how do we tell our child? This is great. How do you do this? When the kid's old enough to understand. You got to tell the kid. Why, you might ask? So why does kid even need to know? Because what if somehow the kid learned later? And then the kid comes to you and goes, so you didn't trust me enough to tell me. Why did you lie to me? Way better to tell the kid something that might be a little hard to digest than to be guilty of lying to the kid. So how do you know if a kid's old enough to understand such a thing? Watch the kid. Kids tell you where they are in their understanding all the time. When a 40-year-old says, Mommy, so how do you have babies? The kid just wants to know, what do you mean by have? Well, you just carry them around and diaper them, and that's how you take care of them. That's how you have them. The kid isn't asking you about sex. Pay attention to the kid's age. Watch for signs that the kid understands, for example, what dead is. Really young kids have no idea what dead is. And you're going to explain to the kid that his biological parents are dead. Not till they know what dead is. And this is really easy. When a kid watches television, for example, or watches a movie with you and sees death, ask him what it means. You're going to learn pretty quickly that their understanding of death grows with time. Until they get it, no sense talking about dead parents. Watch a movie where adoption is a topic and ask the kid questions about it. Ask him, so what does that mean that the kid was adopted? When the kid can say, oh, well, the parents died, or the parents weren't able to take care of the child, and so another nice family came along and they took the child in as their own child and loved it. Well, that kid would be ready to hear it, wouldn't he? If the kid looks at you with a blank look, probably not time. So television, movies, reading stories, pretty good ways to learn where your kid is. So when the kid understands death, love, adoption, then you tell him. And what do you tell him? I'm not going to tell you the exact words to use because it's your kid. But something like this. We are your parents. We always will be. We will always love you. That sentence is what a kid wants to know. We will always love you. That's what a kid wants to know in everything. In adoption, in divorce. Parents get divorced and the kids are asking about divorce. They don't care much what the custody arrangements are and the money and are we going to end up okay? Yes, they're good. No kidding. A parent, then you tell them, a parent is somebody who loves you and teaches you. Now remember, you've been watching the kid and paying attention to see if the kid understands loving, parenting, death, adoption, right? A parent is somebody who loves you and teaches you, and that's us. So we're your parents. But it turns out you can have more than one set of parents. So let's say two people have a child, but then the parents die. The neighborhood doesn't throw the child in the garbage. That wouldn't be good. Always good to use humor if you can. The kid's laughing. No. Would you throw the kid in the trash for recycling? No. So what would you do? Ask the kid. What would you do? Well, you'd find the kid somebody to love them. You'd find another mother and another father to love the child. And they would become the new parents of the kid. Make sense? So the child has two sets of parents. One set that died and one that is alive. When that makes sense to a kid, you explain that that's what happened to him. He was born to his first set of parents and now you're the second set. And you'll love him forever. All very cool and matter of fact. The biggest mistake that you'll make as you explain to a kid that you don't even use the word adoptive. Now we are your real parents. Is your facial expression. If you look concerned, the kid's going to become afraid. And the kid's going to assume that there is something wrong with your explanation. Really. They'll assume there's something wrong with him. He'll assume there's something wrong with you. He'll assume you're lying to him. If you look the slightest bit consternated at all, you're done. Then you get to answer questions about the first set of parents. And it's up to you how much you tell. Usually, pretty much whatever you know. You know, when you were just a little bitty baby, the parents, your first set of parents, before you even remember, they died in a car wreck or whatever. Or we don't know what happened to them. It was in another country and there was a war and somehow you got separated from your parents and nobody has any idea. And they looked for them and nobody could find them. Because if you lie, that doesn't work out very well. So it's really fairly common sense, and as is true with everything else in real love, it's always about assuring the kid that they're going to be loved. I think I'm going to wait on that question. Never liked that question very much. You know, I'm not going to tell you who sent it, but, you know, it was Jacqueline. No, it wasn't. One of these days I'll get to it and I'll say that was the one I hated. A woman called me and she said, so this is kind of a reiteration of a phone call. She said, I hate my job. I said, okay, so what do you hate about it? It's boring. she said. So I asked some more questions. Turns out there's good money, great benefits, regular hours, so no crazy overtime. Turns out that she works very slowly. She's not all that rapid a worker anyway, and in this particular job, she doesn't enjoy her job, so she just, kind of takes her time and turns out her work product just whenever she feels like. She arrives late, consistently. She leaves early. She takes long lunches, and in her own words, she hardly does anything. Yes, she has a federal government job. She does. It's true. One of the few places where you get away with this stuff. And yet, she's complained like this about her job many, many times, about a job that she abuses. I mean, crazy. Now, this part won't shock you, but it turns out that she complains about everything else, not just her job. I know, what a surprise. So I said, well, what kind of job would you like? She didn't know. That surprised me zero. When people complain about everything, usually they dislike everything. And the people who say, I don't like a lot, my children learned this when they were really young. They would say, I would tell them they had to do a job, whatever. Take out the garbage, go rake the lawn, whatever it is. And they said, well, I don't want to, or I don't like it. And I'd say, I don't care. Now, if you can describe a better way to do the job that has to be done, then you don't have to do it my way. Not a problem. Boy, that just puts an end to almost all discussions that start off with, I don't like. Do you have a better idea? Because they never did. I mean, almost never. In fact, I even said, if you have an idea that is 70% as effective as what I just proposed, we'll do it your way. No kidding. And that doesn't mean do 70% of the job or work 70% as long. No, 70% is effective in getting the job done. It is mindless to complain. It is so easy to whine. One way to help people not whine is to ask them if they have a better idea. If we just let people whine, they get to the place where they honestly believe that they're right. They honestly believe that saying, I hate something, I don't like something, is a life occupation, that they're actually accomplishing something when they're not. So I asked her what kind of job she'd like. She didn't know. She'd been at this job that she hated for 15 years, and in 10 years, she hadn't done a single thing to investigate getting another kind of job. Not once. Well, why would she? She's in a job where she shows up late, leaves early, does nothing, takes long lunches, does whatever she feels like, and gets to complain about it. Wow, I want that job. Who wouldn't? So why would she look for no other job would they let her get away with her behavior? And yet she still hated it. It's insane, but people who are irresponsible and people who are victims are insane. I'm seriously insane. I'm not making fun of them. They're not thinking rationally. It is my bet, and I said this to her, that if I picked 100 random jobs out of job listings, out of the want ads, out of a phone book, off the street, off the top of my head, she wouldn't like one of them. I tried a few. Nope, hated them all. What she hates is any kind of responsibility, except for her responsibility to complain about everything that's wrong in the world. She's got that one nailed, except she can't find somebody to pay her for that. I mean, even people who are critics, movie critics, they still have to work hard. They have deadlines. They don't get to just complain. They actually have to offer cogent, thoughtful, rational, literate observations. So it turns out there is no job where they pay you just to whine. So what's the problem? The job? Not a chance. The problem is her. Solution. I said that I would never again hear her talk about her job, except to hear how she was grateful to have it. Now, notice, I'm not controlling her. I didn't tell her to be grateful. I said I would never listen to her talk about her job unless she was expressing gratitude. If she complained, which she is entitled to do, I didn't care. I would simply hang up, which I did more than once. I didn't suggest that that if she expressed gratitude for her job, she might immediately love her job. I didn't say that. I didn't say she had to be grateful for all of it. Just be grateful she had an income, that she had people who put up with her lack of responsibility instead of whining about the job that was providing her a living. And that if she didn't like her job, she had to commit to a dedication to finding another one. Complaining becomes a habit. It really does. Try it sometime. Get up in the morning and just walk around going, pick anything, everything you see. Oh, I hate that. I just hate that. I hate the rain. I hate the dirt on the floor. I hate that. I hate that. Try it sometime. See how long it is before you start hating things. See how long it is before you just start feeling sick to your stomach. I'm not kidding. So if we listen to complaints, we actually enable the habit. We help the victim continue a process that's deadly. We help a victim die. No joke. What if you were out walking on a mountain trail, which I've done before, and you get to a place that is unusually dangerous? The footing is slippery. There are rocks and that easily move underfoot, and you could slip 2,000 feet to your death. And you were walking with somebody who had never walked there before. Would you just let them walk straight into the dangerous place? No, you'd say something. You wouldn't just let them walk into the dangerous place and as they were sliding 2,000 feet to their death say, I hate it. No, you'd tell them. And we need to do that with victims because it's killing them. Parenting question. I don't think we've done one to this point. I try to not do too many in any given chat because not everybody has kids. How would you address children who constantly interrupt, correct parents, and tell them what they need to do? That kind of behavior has to stop right now. Now, completely. Never happens again. For whose benefit? Not the parents, which is the problem. Most parents tell a kid to stop a behavior that is unloving because it's inconvenient to the parents. And then it just turns into a contest. Because if the parents are trying to stop the kid for them, all the kid hears is, I don't love you, I care about myself. And the kid's going, oh, well, I can say, I don't love you louder than you can. And to the parents and the kids end up screaming at each other, I want, I hate you. It's awful. For the children who behave like this, who interrupt their parents, who correct them. I've heard children say things to their parents with other people around that I almost reached for Q-tips to clean out my ears. I couldn't believe I was hearing it. But now I've heard it so many times, it's not a surprise anymore. Children say horrible things to their parents, and they don't care where it is. Children who behave like this are saying what? They're saying, 1, I'm very, very unhappy. 2, nobody loves me. 3, I don't care about anybody but myself. You know, if a kid keeps saying that kind of thing, and they don't say it unless they believe it, life is over for that kid. That kid's screwed for life. Those are the kids who can't have relationships. They can't hold jobs. They blame their partners. They have their horrifying parents. And then they're surprised. And so what do? They then blame everybody else. So when their parents die, so they can't blame their parents anymore, then they blame their spouses and they blame their snotty kids and they blame their horrible boss, like the lady I was talking about who hated her job. They hate everything and complain about everything. They take responsibility for nothing. And so what changes in their lives? Nothing. So we have to stop this in our kids because we care about them. We're not paying attention to what they're saying. I'm very unhappy. Nobody loves me. I don't care about anybody but me. We've got to quit it like right now. So everything I'm going to say about what you do with kids like this presupposes that you are not going to implement what I'm saying without help. Don't take what I'm going to say now to say to your kids and just go do it. Don't. You first have to feel loved yourself, or nothing you say or do is going to have a good result. You've got to get loved, and listen to this next part. You've got to get guidance. You've already proven you don't know what you're doing as a parent. So get loved and get help. Get people that you're accountable to, people that you ask for suggestions. With our children, we are so handicapped by three things. First is we're stupid as rocks. We don't know how to parent. So we lack the knowledge. Second, we're not loved. So we lack the knowledge, then we lack the ability. Third, we are afraid of our kids. We're afraid of their disapproval. We're doomed. Now let me tell you some of the how to correct this. Children grow up in a world of chaos. They're corrected, they're not. There are rules, then there are none. Parents apply consequences, then they don't. It's like kids live in Vegas. It's just a gamble all the time. If we're going to change this, parents have to say something every single time a child is unloving or selfish. Every time. You are never on holiday as a parent. Did you hear that? I can't tell you how many times my kids would do something they needed to be corrected. I'm lying on the couch, I'm watching a movie. It's at the end of the day, and I'm going, oh, just leave it alone. No, you don't get to. That's a privilege you don't get. You decided to bring them into the world, you have to raise them. Because otherwise kids couldn't possibly know what's right. If we correct them sometimes and then they do exactly the same thing the next time we don't correct them, what are they going to conclude? Well, let's see, it was wrong then, right now, what do I do? Wrong, right, left, right, up, down. It makes them nuts. When a child interrupts or corrects, he's being unloving. And if we care about him, we'll do something about it. We don't realize it, but we're teaching kids all the time. All the time. We're teaching them well or we're being stupid. Every time you don't correct a child's selfish behaviors, the child learns that he's not responsible and doesn't have to be loving. And childhood is a preparation for the rest of his life. We have to tell them that. When they behave badly, you have to say, I'm teaching you to save your life, your relationships, everything. Try that selfish, interrupting, rude stuff at school, and you'll fail. You'll be thrown out of school. You get an F. Try it at work, you'll be fired. Try it with a spouse, you're divorced. So if a kid interrupts, you have to tell them that you want to hear what they say, but not while somebody else is speaking. In family meetings, children can be encouraged to participate, but interruption and correction are intolerable. It has to stop completely and right now. So we have to love them, then we teach them, and then we administer consequences. The consequences are last. We forget that. Now, I'm a little hesitant to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's going to take a little longer to talk about the consequences than the little bit of time that we've got left, which is just seconds. So we understand now that children who are interrupting and rude and critical have to be stopped. Has to happen now, has to happen consistently. We love them, we teach them, and next time we're going to talk about examples of consequences, and I'll remind you at the beginning of next time kind of how we got to this discussion to this far. This is powerful stuff. When I was in San Diego being with people, I got to watch people's faces over and over again go from fear, hopelessness, despair, confusion, to hope, to feeling peaceful, to feeling connected, to feeling not alone. Notice, everything I just said was a feeling. I watched people grow in their intellectual understanding of unconditional love, but that didn't spread the light of a smile across their face. So remember the same thing here. We talked about stuff, things to do, but by far the most important thing is how you feel. Feel loved. Feel my love for you. Feel the love of other people around you that care about you. Trust it and remember it, and that will change your life. See you in a week.